Okay everyone, welcome back to Crockett Creek Brewery. Thank you again for joining me tonight. Tonight we have a brand new video with a brand new wine I have never tried before, and I'm super excited to get started with it. So if you saw my last upload, we have a ton of wines going right now. We have a hydromel mead, we have cranberry wine, spiced banana wine, 8-point Bock that's currently being carbonated. We've got some black grape wine in the cellar right now. We've got a little bit of mead in the cellar. We've got a little bit of leftover blend in the cellar. We have a ton of stuff going right now, and that's because I'm stockpiling. I'm stockpiling because I want to supplement everything I drink with homemade wine. I don't want to buy anything from the store, ever. I have the skills to make homemade alcohol at home, homemade wine, homemade beer, cider, any fermented beverage I can make at home. So why do I need to buy anything? That has always been my purpose with home brewing, is to make it myself, to make it better than what I buy at the store, and to supplement what I buy at the store, if not exclude it entirely. So, tonight, let's get on with the video. Tonight we are going to be making grapefruit wine. I've seen online several people make grapefruit wine. What I'm going to be doing tonight is following a rule of thumb that I always go with when I'm making a fruit wine. That is, I use 3 pounds of fruit per gallon of wine. So if I'm making 1 gallon, I use 3 gallons of fruit. Whether I'm making lemon lime wine, whether I'm making black grape wine, whether I'm making peach wine, or if I'm making grapefruit wine, I'm going to use 3 pounds of fruit per gallon. So here we go. That's a lot of grapefruit. This is 15 pounds. There's a little bit more on the counter over there. This is most of it. 15 pounds of sliced, peeled grapefruit. And now I've removed a lot of the white pith from the grapefruit. I don't want any of that pith in my wine, or at least I don't want most of it. I couldn't get all of it off. If you do this at home, you probably won't be able to get all of it off. I got most of it. That'll add a lot of acidity, a lot of bitterness that I don't necessarily want. I haven't de-seeded it. There will be some seeds in the wine. I'm not worried about it. What I have here is, in my brew bucket, I have 4 gallons of water. I have a 5th gallon right here. There's a reason for that. Also, usually my rule of thumb is I add about 2 pounds of sugar per gallon of wine. That brings my specific gravity up to about 1.086 or 1.090. If I put a little over a gallon of water, it could bring it down to 1.080 or 1.082. But I'm trying to reach a specific gravity with this wine. So I did a lot of calculations to come up with the amount of sugar I needed. It came out to pretty close. About 2.5 pounds of sugar per gallon is what I'm using. So over here, you can see I've got 2 pots, 2 bowls full of sugar. Tonight I'm making 5 gallons. 5 gallons of grapefruit wine. I've never made this before. I have no idea if this is going to turn out. We just went straight for it. 5 gallons off the get-go. So right here, I have 12.5 pounds of sugar. This is about 11 pounds. This is 1.5 pounds. That makes 12.5 pounds. Luckily, my local grocery store sells their sugar in 25-pound bags. That right there is gold for a home brewer. 25-pound bags of sugar. Everything I'm using tonight has already been sanitized with Star San. I have adjusted a little bit of my procedure of making homemade wine, and you'll see why. I'll explain why I've adjusted my procedure. I think it works better now. So let's get started. So first, we have 4 gallons of water right here in our brew bucket. Let's go ahead and add our sugar. We're gonna add it in increments. It doesn't really matter how much at a time. I just want to get it fully mixed in a fairly reasonable amount of time. This is our 1.5 pounds from our little bowl. We're gonna add some of our big bowl, which is 11 pounds. That's probably pretty good. Now, what we're gonna need is I have here a stir stick. This attaches to the end of my power drill. I love this tool. It saves me a lot of time. So here we go. And yes, before you asked, I did sanitize my power drill. I wiped it down with a sanitized piece of paper towel. Let's go ahead and get after it. So let's fully mix as much of the sugar in as we can. One of the reasons I only added 4 gallons of water to this brew bucket was because I could reach it with my stir stick down to the bottom and fully mix in a big portion of our sugar. We're going to let this sit for a couple minutes, see if we have any sugar that settles to the bottom. If so, we're going to keep stirring it. So, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. Tonight, I am enjoying a little bit of Coors Light. Maybe one of the last times I enjoyed Coors Light on a regular basis, because with all this stuff we have fermenting, we're going to have a lot of home brew. Some of this stuff is going to be fermenting for a long time. My rosemary hydro mill you saw over in the corner, that probably still has another 2 weeks to ferment and probably a week or 2 to carbonate. I even may let it sit for several months in my cupboard so that it can clarify, the flavors can meld better. I've really learned to appreciate time when it comes to home brewing in the last few months. I've been making quite a bit of a black grape wine. I have found it incredibly remarkable. Tastes very similar to a store-bought Merlot. And I found that the more time I give it, the better. And it is actually noticeable. The difference in drinking it green, right, as soon as you bottle it, or giving it a month, or 3 months, or 6 months to age in the bottle. The difference is noticeable, and it's remarkable how much better it tastes after it's aged. It tastes so good, in fact, I think I may start oaking it. And if I do start oaking it, I can guarantee you I'm gonna make a video on it, because that will be a game changer in my homebrewing. I received a lot of gifts over Christmas that have really changed my homebrewing and upped my scale quite a bit. I received 3 5-gallon fermenters from my sister for Christmas, so thank you for those. They have really helped me. They've upped my game considerably. I'm making more 5-gallon batches. Excuse me. I also have a new ale bucket, a new brew bucket that she got me, as well as a ton of airlocks, a ton of bones for my airlocks. I got a whole lot of stuff. I got a drying rack for my bottles. I've got a bottling tree now. I've got a drying rack for my carboys, 1 gallon and 5 gallon. I got a ton of great stuff. I've also bought a new auto siphon for 5-gallon batches and a new bottling wand. So I have really stepped up my game in recent months. We're making a ton of stuff, so stay tuned for more videos. But right now, let's check on our sugar here in this brew bucket. I see a little bit more on the bottom. Let's mix this up one more time. We'll add the rest of our sugar. Now, if anyone asks, this is just tap water out of my sink. I like using my tap water. It's a lot more convenient for me. It's cheaper for me to use regular tap water. I already pay for it. If your tap water tastes good and you like it, go ahead and use it. If your tap water tastes bad, I can probably guarantee you that your brew is going to taste bad. So then you might switch to some filtered water that you buy at the store in 1 gallon or 5-gallon bottles, whatever you prefer. Let's go ahead and add the rest of our sugar. This is going to be a very, very full brew bucket. I made sure I pre-measured out all my water so that hopefully by the time we're done and this has fermented for a while and we rack our wine for the first time to get it off of the fruit, we have about 5 gallons. So that should help us to have a final 5 gallons of wine when we're all said and done. Let's go ahead and mix this up a couple more times. Okay, so we're going to let that sit for a couple more minutes. What I'm going to do right now is actually add in my remaining gallon of water. Now, right now we are already off the charts. We are showing probably somewhere around 6 gallons, 6.5 gallons of water. We added a ton of sugar to this. 12.5 pounds of sugar is being dissolved into this water. Once we put all of our fruit in here and once we put all of our yeast in here, it's going to be very, very full. But that's okay. Hopefully we'll come out with a final product of 5 gallons exactly of homemade wine. So let me show you real quick which yeast we're going to be using. So, right here, fresh out of the fridge, is my favorite go-to yeast. This is Lalvin K1V 1116 champagne yeast. I love this yeast because it has an extremely high alcohol tolerance. No matter what I make, if I make a 6.5% brew or if I make a 18% brew, it will burn through it very quickly, unless I have something go wrong, which happens from time to time. But this champagne yeast has an 18% alcohol tolerance. That means it'll eat through it up to 18%. I love this yeast. So this is fresh out of the fridge. We're gonna let that sit for a few minutes and acclimate to room temperature while we watch our brew bucket and make sure all our sugar is settling out nicely. Now there's a reason why I mixed my water and my sugar first. And this is one of the changes to my procedure. Because used to, when I made videos, I would add my fruit to it, I'd add a few of the fruit skins to it, I'd add my raisins to the water, I'd mix everything up all at once. But I was finding that I started out with a lower specific gravity than I originally intended. And I couldn't figure out why until I realized that a lot of my sugar was sticking to the fruit and dissolving into the fruit rather than into the water. So I began to mix my water and sugar separately and then add my fruit. And that changed a lot of my specific gravities to what I added up in my original recipe. So this is one addition, one change to my home brewing technique that I think will really help a lot of you as you make your own brews. Mix your water and your sugar separately and then add your fruit to it. Make sure your sugar is entirely dissolved. And what we're going to actually do here in a minute is check our water-sugar mixture and see if we have the original specific gravity that we intended. Then we're going to add our fruit to it. It's possible that our fruit contains some sugars that are fermentable, in which case it may raise our specific gravity higher than what I intended. I don't think with this grapefruit being high in citric acid, it will raise it that much. But I never made this before. It's possible that it could raise it significantly. I don't think it will. I haven't done the research, I haven't done the math to check myself. We're just trusting that we're gonna have somewhere around a 15% alcohol wine when we're done. It might be as high as 18, might be higher than that. I don't know, but we're guessing. And it's an educated guess. I've made a ton of lemon lime wine before. I love lime wine. So because I have that much history with citric fruits, with citrus, I'm trusting this is going to be a very low sugar fruit. So let's go ahead and mix up our sugar one more time just to be certain we have everything dissolved. Then we'll add our fruit. Okay, so let's go ahead and check our specific gravity on our sugar water mixture. So here I have my turkey baster and my cylinder. Let's reach down in here and get us a little bit of water. Should take right at about 5 squirts. And let's get our hydrometer. Here we go. Should be at 1.15. And ladies and gentlemen, we are right on the money. 1.15. I love it. Okay, 1.15 with our sugar water mixture. Just what we wanted. I'm going to go ahead and submerge this again in my sanitizing liquid, just to get any of the sugar water off of it so it doesn't taint our reading later. We're going to pour this back in. Don't worry about being gentle. The more oxygen you have in your initial brew, the better. Okay. Now, I have a ton of fruit here. What we're going to do with this is we're going to squeeze it as we put it in our bucket. Hopefully this will save us a little bit of space, because right now in our brew bucket our space is limited. So, our first quarter slice, give it a little squeeze, and toss it in. Okay, so we have gone ahead and added all of our fruit. That took an incredibly long time. We squeezed all the fruit as we added it, and as you can see, our bucket is very, very full. I actually had to remove about half of the pulp from our mixture. I squeezed it again to remove all the juices, all the goodness from the pulp, discarded it. Now we have enough room for our lid. I've also gone ahead and rechecked it with our hydrometer. We still have a 1.115 specific gravity, which will give us a 15% alcohol wine. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and add our Blauvin K1V 1116 champagne yeast. We're going to sprinkle it right here all over the top. What we're going to do, throw this away. We're going to give it a slight stir, just enough to get rid of some of the clumps, add a little bit more oxygen to it. Very, very gently. This is very full. If this sticks to the fruit, I'm not concerned at all. That fruit pulp will actually add a little bit of yeast nutrient to it. That'll be good for it. What I'm really scared about at this point is an extra aggressive fermentation. If it does that, it'll definitely shoot through my airlock. There we go. Our lid is on. We do not have a lot of head space here. We're going to have to be very careful when we move this. But I feel like a doctor when I do that, getting ready with a syringe. There we go. There is our airlock. We're going to add that very, very carefully. Okay. So there we go. Our airlock has been added. I'm going to add a label to this with its name, its date, and its original specific gravity. And we'll probably be back to check this in about 2 weeks' time when we'll remove the fruit. So, I hope you enjoyed this really unique, really quite new for me, homemade wine, grapefruit wine. It should taste spectacularly. Before I go, let me share with you a quick story about why I thought about grapefruit wine. I told you earlier that I found some research online regarding grapefruit wine, but that's not what first got me interested. Usually in the spring and summer when I was growing up, my parents would give me, when I woke up, a half a grapefruit. And my dad would hand me a metal spoon, and that would be my breakfast for the morning. I would sit there and scoop out the meat from the inside of the grapefruit and eat it. It would really jumpstart me and get me ready for the day ahead. So when I think of the spring and the summer, I think of eating fresh grapefruit. I really wanted to make a grapefruit wine to remind me of those spring, summer mornings I had when I was growing up. That's when I did the research and found out it was possible. Several people were doing it, and I had to give it a try myself. So I hope you've enjoyed this new video, this new recipe here at Crockett Creek Brewery. We'll see you on the next one. Take care now.